Well, welcome. I am super glad that you all are here. Just to make sure you're in the right place, it's drag, drop, teach, how to use Ellie's lesson planner like a pro. Again, we here at Ellii know how valuable your time is, especially in teaching. We can be very busy as teachers, and so we are really grateful that you have taken the time out of your day to spend it with us and to be learning about this awesome tool I cannot wait to share with you. I have, I just have one item on my housekeeping list here, and it's an item you probably already know. Um, this is not our first rodeo on webinars, but it's an important one, so please remember it. Um, I'd really like you to be deliberate in putting your questions in the Q&A. I have like the most amazing people from Ellii, my super smart colleagues, coworkers, helping me on the back end to answer questions. And it just makes it a lot easier if you put the question in the Q&A so they can help answer it, and then I can answer some at the end. We might not get to all of your questions, and if that happens, you can always email us at hello@ellii.com, and I'll have that email at the end of the webinar as well. So remember, questions in the Q&A, and then keep your the chat in the chat. And speaking of the chat, I come to you not only as an Ellii, part of the Ellii team, but I'm also a teacher. And I believe so strongly in community, and I feel like this is a conversation between, even though I'm like talking to my talking to my camera on my computer, I still feel like we're part of a community here at Ellii, and with you being here learning about the lesson planner tool. So let's use that chat right now to introduce ourselves. Just you can just put your first name and where you're from. I see it already blowing up now, so thank you. I can't really like monitor it, but I would love to know like where you're from, what you're teaching, and also, are you familiar with the lesson planner tool? Have you used it before? Are you a super user that you think maybe you missed something that's why you're here? Or maybe you're even new to Ellii. I'd love to hear that, to keep this sense of this conversation going and this sense of community here, and in our webinar. So that being said, let's keep our community chats in the chat and our questions in the Q&A. Next, you probably are wondering who's talking to you. I'm Wendy. You can see, my professional background on the screen. I don't really need to go into that too much, but I would like to share with you, I am the education specialist here at Ellii. I'm a newer member of the team, and I'm really excited to be here. I come from the classroom to Ellii. I still am, but I used Ellii in my classroom, and I still use Ellii in my classroom because I'm teaching a distance learning course this summer through the program where I work at night. Shout out to District 113 Adult Ed in Highland Park, Illinois. And so why I call this a conversation is I want to talk to you about how I use this as a teacher and why I'm so excited to share this with you. Another thing I wanted to mention is that, with Ellii, I've been traveling around the country for the past 6 months, and I've been so fortunate to go to all these conferences and talk to you, to the users of Ellii, and then potential users of Ellii. And I just found that, some of us know about the lesson planner tool, but not enough of us. So I was like, this is my mission to bring this, awesome, simple organizational tool to everybody out there so that you know about it and you can use it. Because I'll tell you, honestly, I am using it now and it is fabulous. So I'm really happy to be sharing that with you. Now, as I told you, I'm a teacher, so I have to have objectives that just helps me stay organized as well as using the lesson planner tool. And it's so that you know what you're going to get out of this webinar. The first objective is that I just want to show you what the lesson planner is and how you can organize these wonderful materials that we have on Ellii inside the lesson planner. Okay, so I'm going to teach you what the lesson planner is. I'm going to show it to you. And then the second thing I want to show you is from the lesson planner, the lessons that in the material that you've put in there, you can actually customize it, which there's some really cool features. And then third, I want to show you a feature where you can enhance student engagement. This is awesome. And lastly, once you've made this great curriculum in your lesson planner tool, I want to show you how to save it. And then I want to show you how to share it, not just with yourself, but then potentially with other um, colleagues or teachers or admin in your program. So enough of that already. We know our objectives, you know who I am, and when you know that we're a community of learners. So let's go ahead and dive into Ellii. Here we go. So this is the Discover page. There might be some people here at this webinar that are not super familiar with Ellii. There might be some people here that know Ellii, like kinda. And then there's some people here that are super users of Ellii. So I'm just going to touch on a few things that, maybe our new friends to Ellii might not know. And one really important thing to know about Ellii is that we have 4 types of materials. Ellii's been around for 23 years. And because we're digital, it's so wonderful because we have current, relevant, up-to-date materials and that we can publish like almost every day. We have new stuff. And that's what makes us really unique. And with these materials, these are the types of materials we're going to be putting into the lesson planner. You're probably like, Wendy, where's the lesson planner? I'm going to show you how you actually get the material into the lesson planner, and then we're going to go in and see how to organize our material. So I told you that I'm teaching a class at night for the District 113 Adult Ed. I'm teaching a flipped classroom model, and it's an advanced conversation class. And I want to let's say I want to put some materials in that class. Well, I'm going to click on lessons, right? And I'm going to scroll down here, and my students are advanced, and these discussion starters are awesome for advanced students. And I remember reading in my, what to teach with Ellii this week email that they had some new material. And then I saw this one on goal setting. And I know my students would love it because we're talking about, getting jobs or becoming healthy, and this would be perfect. So I want to add this to my lesson planner tool. How do I do that? Well, I'm going to click on the lesson. And for those of you newer to Ellii, I just want to remind you that Ellii, like 90% of what we have, we have a paper form that comes in PDF that you can download and print and use in person. And then we have the digital form, which has digital tasks for you, your students to do, on whatever device they may be using. I just want to pop into a lesson real quickly to show you what it looks like. I'm going to pop into this PDF. And I can show you that it's wonderful because it follows this nice, the nice order of language learning. We're accessing prior knowledge, we're building vocabulary, and then we're reading. Like, for example, in my course, I assign the vocabulary and the warm-up and the reading ahead of time, and then we do the other communicative or comprehension questions. We do those in class. But this is what the PDF would look like. And then if you come over here to the sidebar, you can see here where you could actually go look at the digital tasks. And this is what it looks like on the digital side where you can assign it to your students and they can do it on their device. As you can see, it mirrors the paper lesson pretty closely. They're just probably a couple different things, listen and type, instead of listen and write. But so they're just a couple things that are just a little bit different because it's a digital format, but you can see it's very user-friendly and it's also mobile responsive. This is just a click and select type of activity. And when they're finished, they can just submit it. So how do I get this into my class? Let me go back to this overview. That was the binoculars. There's always a blue button, add to class. Easy peasy, mac and cheesy. All you do is click that. Now, you will have set up your class. We'll see this in a minute, but you will have set up your class. I'm going to be talking about the Summer 25 Advanced Conversation class. And then it's going to ask you where you want to put it. You might not understand this right now, but we'll get to it. So there are 3 choices. There's saved, where you store it. There's prepping, where you know you're going to teach it. And then there's teaching, where it's available immediately. I typically stay with the prepping, which is the default, and you'll see why in a moment. And then I just click save. It's that easy. Now let me go back to Ellii. And I know that my students also, you can also, which is another great feature in Ellii, you can search. We love the search. So I know that my students were interested in national parks. And so I was like, what lessons could I find on national parks? Oh, and here's one on the Badlands, which is gorgeous. Um, so I know that I want to do this lesson. I'm going to add it to my class. But remember, the class I'm doing is Summer 25 Advanced Conversation. But this time, instead of in the prepping lane, I'm going to save it because that's where, you can save material that you think you might teach, but you don't know for sure. And I just don't know if I'm going to have time to get to that. So I put it in the saved location. So remember those two lessons and where I put them, because we're going to take a look at those next. All right. So I put that in saved. So remember, any material, whether it's a lesson, a video, flashcards, or a resource, is always going to have this add to class button. And you just click, and then you find your class, and it's there. So speaking of that, let's go bump into my classroom. You select classroom. Here is the chevron. Here's the drop-down menu. I select classes. Okay, so here is my summer advanced conversation class. Let's click into this. Voila. Here is our lesson planner tool. This is what you use to organize and plan your curriculum, and then to assign digital homework to your students. And they can do that at home or they can do it in your class. It just depends on your preference, right? And the great thing about this digital, this lesson plan, this lesson planner tool is the way it's set up visually. So, Ellii knows that an organized teacher is a better teacher and a more effective teacher. And this style of prepping and organizing is from a Kanban board. I know, I didn't know what that was before either. But my super smart colleagues came up with this and I love them for it. So it's like a visual overview of everything that you are planning, that you're teaching, and that you've taught. And you have this bird's eye view of it all at one time. And it's so clean and so easy to read. And I personally love it. I'm very visual, so it really helps me stay organized. It's a great visual organizational tool. So now that you know that this is our lesson planner and our tool, I want to talk to you about the pieces of our lesson planner tool, right? So we have 3 lanes here. We have prepping, we have teaching, and we have taught. Pretty self-explanatory, but let me go into a little more detail. The prepping lane is where you organize your materials before your students can see them. And I will show you the student view in just a moment. But this is where you're organizing the order of how you're going to teach it. Now, remember when I added that lesson goal setting from just a few moments ago? So it ends up first here in the prepping lane. But I was going to talk about, dogs spreading cheer at the airport and then traveling and then digital nomads and maybe staycations. I think goal setting would be really great, like after procrastination, let's stop procrastinating and start setting some goals. So maybe I need to move it there. And you have the ability to move these lessons or, videos or flashcards however you want. And you can put it in the order that you want. All right. So remember, the prepping lane is where you can put things to organize before your students see it. Then there is the teaching lane. This is where you have assigned work to your students. And this is what is visible to your students. Let's just take a look at that real quickly from the student side. So you can see here, Ellii's got these great, by the way, current event videos, and I've been using those as like little warm-ups in my class. I really love those. And then you have this, lesson. So by the way, but let's take a look at what that looks like over here. So here we have Elena. She's a super student, and we're going to click into her class with me. And here you go. the current. These are the two classes that, oh, and she's an overachiever. She's already completed the classes, the coursework. So this is what the only thing she can see, right? She can't see anything in the prepping lane. She just sees what's in the teaching lane. Now, when you want to get the lessons out of view of your student, you can move them over to the taught lane. Now, I'm still teaching these, so I'm going to keep these here. But you can get them out of view and you can put them in the taught lane. And then what's great about this is that you can see the lessons, that you've done from the very first day all the way through, the current time that you're in now. Like I said, I'm teaching this advanced, ESL conversation class. And in the beginning, my students had, they kind of told me what they wanted to learn about, which gives them some agency, right? And what the cool thing too is that we have such unique lessons that it really, allows the students to dive into language and have these learn all these great new terms like binge watching, and ecotherapy for kids. My students are very into the environment. So, and then I also was able to pop some lessons in about, holidays like Memorial Day that some of them didn't know, or Father's Day. So this is the taught lane where you're moving the assigned tasks out of the way so your students know that you're no longer doing those. So let's say I was teaching those. I said I was teaching those. Whoops, sorry. And then I just move them out of the way. And then if I go here and I refresh, it would refresh for your student automatically, but you can see there's nothing there. But where did they go? They went here into past. And so the students always have access to the lessons that you have done. And another cool thing about this is that if the student clicks into a past lesson, they can retry it. And how awesome is that? There are a couple other tabs here I'd like to mention, and that's media. Whether a lesson is in current or in past, the media, whether it's a video or flashcards, just always shows up here. And that's just a nice shortcut way to get to it. And this tab, My Picks, it's part of our third objective, so I'm going to come back to it. All right, so hold that thought. Let me go back to our lesson planning tool. We've talked about prepping, teaching, and just how easy it is to move your lessons. And there's one more piece of this lesson planner tool that I'd like to show you. It's really important. It's the content drawer. Let's open that up. In the content drawer, there are 4 areas. You have saved, folders, recommended, and student picks. Does anybody remember the lesson that I saved at the beginning of this webinar? It was the Badlands National Park. This is where it ends up. As you can see, I've put in Mount Rushmore and NASA. This is where you want to put your stuff that you're thinking about, but you're not sure you're going to get to it. You can always click into it and move it to prepping if you wanted to, or you can even delete it. But remember that once you save it, it's in the content drawer. Folders, that's part of our 4th objective. I'll get to that. Recommended, it's just our Ellii bot, whatever the attributes you've put in for your class. And when you've set it up, the Ellii bot will recommend content for you. And student picks, what I just showed you on Elena, the student side on My Picks, those two are related, and I'm going to get back to that pretty soon. Before I go to those other 2 objectives, the next thing I want to talk to you about that's really a game changer is being able to customize the lessons that you have here in the lesson planner. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So let's say I decide, I'm like, you know what, I want to do, I'm going to move this back here. I want to talk about staycations first, and then we're going to go to the airport and maybe, go travel. But first, we're going to try a vacation at home called a staycation. So I want to customize this lesson. What does that really mean? So if I click on the lesson, there are a bunch of things that I can do inside the lesson to customize an Ellii lesson. So first, I can give a due date. We love these, right? Our students need to know when they're due. So maybe, I'm teaching tonight and we'll have it due by Tuesday. And then you can leave a note and, please do all the tasks. Let's see if I can spell while I type, and have a great weekend. All right. So they know that's from me. And so you can due date, you can leave a note. Here is my favorite piece, is the edit tasks. So if you click in here, as you'll notice, there are 10 tasks. But in my case, for example, what I'm teaching, I want to only assign about 4 tasks to my students because we're doing a flipped classroom model. I'm going to do the warm-up video, the vocabulary, and the read and listen. The rest of these wonderful activities, I want to do those in class because those are more communicative. So I'm just going to assign those 4, and then I'm going to update it. Okay, right? And then I'm going to click Save. So let's say I move this into our teaching lane. What does that look like on the student side? I'm going to move over. I'm going to move back. Whoops, sorry. I'm going to move back to Elena. I'm going to refresh. Whoops, I need to go to current. That helps. And then I'm going to click in. Well, first of all, you can see right here, the due date shows up immediately. So the student's alerted to that. And then I'm going to click into this staycations. And you can see there's my note. And oh, great, I spelled everything right. That's good. And then you can see that there are only 4 tasks assigned. And that's a really great feature here in the lesson planner tool that I have found tremendously useful and that I have noticed that maybe not a lot of people had known about this. So let's go back to her homepage, and then we're gonna go back to our lesson planner tool, and I'm going to show you a few more ways to customize the lesson. So let me click back in here. Also, you can, by the way, you can also view student results. So you can see which of your students, have worked on the tasks. You just assigned this, so obviously they haven't done them, but you can see who's done what, and then maybe, just send them a little WhatsApp and say, oh, just a friendly reminder, you haven't started your tasks yet. They're due tomorrow, due in a few days. But okay, so let's go back to our staycations. That was the view student results. So you can monitor what they're doing and edit text. You can also post this to your Google Classroom, which is pretty cool. And then you can get a tokenized link to share for an LMS as well. Now, this is, the due date, the notes, the results, the edit task, Google Classroom, and tokenized link. The next thing I want to show you is awesome. Okay, I didn't know about all of this stuff until I started using it. And I'm like, why didn't I know about this? So this is why I love sharing it with you, is the scheduling, which has made my life this summer a lot easier. I love teaching. I love working with Ellii on the Ellii team. And I also love summer. And sometimes I forget things in the summer. So this really helps me stay organized and on task and not forget to assign my students homework or work, because they'll WhatsApp me and they'll say, Wendy, where are the assignments out? So this keeps me very scheduled and organized. So I can Ellii, inside our tool, it will move your lessons for you. Like you've seen me dragging and dropping. You don't have to worry about that. We can take care of that for you. So again, let's say from prepping to teaching, I want this to move. Well, it's already in teaching, but regardless, I want it to move on the 18th, and then, which is today, and then I want it to move from teaching to taught on the 24th. And look at that. This little clock shows up. Isn't that cute? Okay, so this little clock shows up, and then I click save. Watch this. And then there's a little clock there. So I can, in my actual class that I'm using, that I'm teaching with, it has all the little clocks here because I have it all set up to move since we're so consistent for the 14 weeks of the summer course. And this is this has been a bit of a game changer for me, not going to lie. So again, let me show you what that looks like. It's in scheduling. You know it's scheduled if you see the little clock right here. It's there. And you just have to click on the tab scheduling and, figure out when you need it to move from prepping to teaching and from teaching to taught. All right. Oh, and then if you decide, you always have the option. If this lesson, you're like, this is going to be a lead balloon, I do not want to do this, you can always delete it. And it's right there. So that's a good thing to know. All right. That is customizing the lessons within Ellii, within your lesson planning tool. Again, super easy, very, very user-friendly. And you can do it with everything, whether it's a video or whether it's flashcards or whether it's any sort of resource. Okay, now, if you remember, I believe the third thing I wanted to talk to you about was a way for you to enhance student engagement. And I don't know if any of you remember where that was. Remember, I'm having a conversation with you. Even though you can't answer back, you're probably answering in the chat. But if we go to the content drawer, you can see, we have the saved, right? The folders, the recommended, and the student picks. Okay. I have to let you know that I didn't know about the student picks and I wasn't using them. And I would like you to use them. I started using them, I believe, 2 weeks ago in the class that I'm teaching, and my students love it. And it's a great way. And we know in education, we know we're all educators here, most likely, that, when students have skin in the game, they learn a lot more. They're invested. And this is Ellie's way of helping us help our students get skin in the game and to really be invested in their learning. So let me show you, what this looks like from my end and from the student's end, okay? All right, so if I click on student picks, oh my gosh, look, I haven't selected anything. There's nothing here. Okay, well, I'm teaching this advanced conversation class and I had taken a lesson. If you remember in the very beginning of this webinar, I had taken one from the discussion starters. I love that section. So here I go. I can go and I can browse lessons. Let's click here. Well, I really do love these discussion starters. If you're not using them, by the way, I would start using them. Anywhere from low, intermediate to advanced. They're just unique and wonderful and current topics that are of high interest for sure. So let's click into discussion starters. How on earth do I get this into student picks? Well, you can see the first button you see right here. You're probably wondering, what is this student picks thing? Well, it's that. And so all I have to do is click on this and I can choose which class it should go to. And you can see this one's grayed out here because it's too difficult for my beginning ESL class. So that's really nice of Ellii to do too, right? We let you know that, you know what, this isn't the proficiency level for your learners in that class. We're in the summer 25 class, so that's where we're going to save it. Okay, so here we go. Save. Now, what does this look like on my end in my lesson planner tool? We're going to go back to my classes. We're going to bump back into my classroom. And do you remember where those are? Yeah, you're right. In the content drawer in student picks. But there's nothing here, Wendy. Yeah, I know. It's waiting on your students to pick. So now we need to take a look at what it looks like as a student. So let's go back to Elena. Hello, Elena. And let's click into my picks. I promised I would get back here, and here I am. So we're going to click into my picks here. And isn't this beautiful? Oh my gosh. I just, it's like here at Ellii, I just think our images are, they just draw the learner in, and the simplicity, it just reduces any sort of like cognitive load and makes you want to learn something. You know, we're learning with our eyes, right? As well. So here are all these, it's just the titles, it just says a title, and then that's the category that it's in. So all your students see is the title and the beautiful image, and all they have to do is heart it. So let's heart a few of these. Blue zones, simplicity, that sounds really nice right now. And how about fun? Oh, this looks great. So we're going to be healthy, simple, and fun. Okay. Oh, okay. Something I did want to tell you that with the student picks, I don't know if any of you picked up on it, but there are like 165 lessons in this discussion starters, and they'll probably want to pick like a whole bunch of them. And that's a lot to handle because then we won't really know what they truly want to learn. They've just kind of picked everything. So me personally, I put some guardrails up there and I just said, okay, pick 3 to 5 lessons that you'd be interested in learning about by the end of our semester together. So guardrails help, just to put some parameters there. It makes it easier for all of you and just more authentic for your learners that they are getting what they really want. So, okay, Elena has hearted these 3. What does that look like now on my end as the teacher? Let me bump back here and let me just refresh. And let me go back into my content drawer, back into student picks. Isn't that cool? So now I know, and obviously if, all my students were picking, I'd have like 10 picks for this or 2 picks for that. So I can, I know which one is more popular than the other one that's going to hit more students. So this is a really wonderful way to enhance student engagement and, an interest and accountability in the classroom. And I just want to show you the 3 dots here. Like, let's say you decided, oh, I don't want the discussion starters. So I'm going to get rid of that section. I'd rather have, famous people. Maybe my students want to learn about famous people. I'm going to put that one in instead. You would just click on share selections. And then maybe once you were done with all of these, you can also clear your picks. You can just reset it. So those are 2 options in the student picks area. Okay. Pretty cool. So we've had I've told you what the lesson planner tool is, and I've showed you the components. I've showed you how to customize it with, editing tasks and leaving notes and due dates and scheduling. And then, I've showed you how to, do the student picks and, on the student side, the my picks. Okay. The last thing, I've got about, 10 to 15 minutes left here, that I'd like to cover, save the best for last. And this is a really important piece for you as the teacher, and then for your organization for sharing. I want to teach you now, or show you now, how to save your curriculum that you've created in this lesson planner tool. And then I want to show you how to share it with yourself, like for another class, or with people in your organization. Okay? And we've made it really user-friendly and easy peasy mac and cheesy, I promise. So I look through here and I'm like, Wendy, you know what? You did a great job. Look at your students were engaged. They love these unique lessons that are like current today, like binge watching. That actually we had a great time with binge watching. I highly recommend that lesson if you are teaching a conversation class. Benefits of a 4-day work week, that was wonderful. Climate change, the students were just so engaged. So I want to save this curriculum. What do I do? Well, I go right here, I save it to a folder. I click on that, and now I need to give it a new name. And because I'll be using this over and over again, I'm just going to call it Advanced Conversation Course, okay? And that way, I don't have a term attached to it so that if I share it with other teachers, they'll know what it is. Now, I never got to that saved material. So I'm going to deselect or uncheck saved. I never got to that. And while you do see the stuff in my prepping, let's say for the webinar's sake that I didn't get to the stuff in my prepping and I had everything I had in taught and teaching, and that was perfect. And we just ended the year so well, and it was an airtight curriculum. I click export. Okay. Sometimes this little black, where you can view the folder, it will disappear. By the time I figured out where I am, I'm like, oh, where'd it go? So where does the folder go? That's an important thing to know. If you come to saved and you click on the drop-down menu, we go to folders. And let's click inside there. Oh my gosh, there it is. Look at advanced conversation course. Here we are. Let's click in to see what this looks like inside your folder. This is the curriculum that you created. Well, you and your students together, because remember, they were using the MyPicks. Okay, so let's click in, and you can see here that all of the lessons are in order from the first one you taught all the way to the last one you taught. And let's say I was like, we started out with binge watching, but it just makes a lot more sense to do a 4-day work week first, because then on your 5th day, you could do your binge watching. That seems like a better flow. And you know what? This year, maybe I want to remove, if you go over to the three dots, the ellipse, whatever you want to call it, you can remove it from your class. You can also, save it to, you can save it to another class, or you can add it to a class. But so you can remove that one if you want to. And let's say I wanted to do recycling myths before climate change, and then I actually wanted to start with a video. So you have the ability within this folder to change everything around. Okay. Now, how do I get this into my class? So let's say, okay, I'm teaching this in the summer, and I'm going to teach the same exact class that in the fall. Well, how do I get it into that fall, lesson planner tool? Like, I'm not really sure how to do that. Well, we've made it easy again. We just again have a button, pin to class. Note, you will have had to have made your class before, because in order to pin it, you have to pin it to a class. So go ahead, set up your class. I set up my class for fall 25 advanced conversation. So I already set my class up while you guys were waiting to get into the webinar. So I'm going to pin this curriculum to that class, and I can select it here, fall 25 advanced conversation, and I'm going to click it, and then I'm going to pin it. Okay. Let's go to that class and see where it ended up. I bet some of you can guess where it ended up, right? So I'm going to don't kick it. I'm going to click on classes. Okay. And here's my fall 25. I've created it. I go to my lesson planner. Do you remember where it would go? If you say the content drawer, you are correct. Okay. So it would be in folders. Remember our curriculum that we saved it to a folder. And all you have to do, this is pinned folders, is click on that, and here it is. And you want to select all of remember I didn't need Memorial Day, whatever. You want to select all of the lessons. You get the choice again. You can modify it in your folder, and then you can modify it again after it's been pinned. You can always modify. This is the wonderful thing about Ellii. It's like you can always change things around to adapt to your learners' needs and your needs as a teacher. So where am I going to go? Well, it's in saved. I don't want it to stay there. I want to teach this class. So I'm going to move it to prepping, and then I'm going to apply it. And let's close our content drawer. And there it is. Voila. Here we go. We have your curriculum all set and ready to roll. And then you can just move it into the teaching and then move it into the taught as you move on. Or if you're like me and you forget things, you will have all the little clocks next to your lessons. So it's been scheduled. That is how you save your curriculum to a folder. You put your folder in, in your saved folders, and then you pin it to your next class. That's how you save and share with yourself. Now, I told you that I was going to explain how you share it with people in your organization. So let's go back to our folders. And let's say someone's like, oh my gosh, Wendy, that was like the greatest curriculum you have ever made. Please share it with me. I'm teaching that same class in the spring, Would you please share it with me? All I have to do is click share with, and look, Tom Petty and I are teaching the same class. How lucky am I? So I'm going to share my class with Tom Petty, and then I would click share. But maybe the other teachers in the school really liked my curriculum and they were like, Wendy, will you share with me too? And then my program manager says, Wendy, just share it with everybody. So all I have to do is toggle up here where it says share with all teachers in your school, pretty self-explanatory, and you just toggle it on and you share and off it goes. And it's shared with everybody in your organization. So you can share with one, like I could share with Tom, or I can share with everybody. And then let's say Tom shared a folder with me. I look at that folder, I can go with shared with me, and these are the folders that my colleagues like Billie Holiday and Tom Petty and Margaret Atwood have shared with me. Aren't they generous? And so then I can go ahead, I can copy this to my folders. I can go back to my folders, and there's Mary's right there. And then I can pin it to a class. Just like I did before, I can pin it, I can choose the class, and then I can pin it. I'm not going to pin it there just because it's not for my advanced conversation class. So we're going to X out of there. So that's the easy way that Ellii has set up in this lesson planner tool and with the use of folders. I'm going to bump back into my classroom. The way that, with this great visual bird's eye view of what you're doing and this curriculum that you can see from when you started to when you finished, that you can save it to a folder. And then from your folder, you can pin it to a class, or from a folder, you can share it with other people in your organization, and then they can pin it to their classes. So I think we have hit all 4 of our objectives. You know what the lesson planner tool is and how amazingly simple and organized it is for us teachers to use. You know what the components are, the prepping, the teaching, the taught, how easy it is to move things from lane to lane. You have seen the student view and what it looks like on the student side. And you know that we have the content drawer here with our saved, our folders, our recommended, and the student picks. You know how to enhance student engagement with student picks. And then lastly, now you know how to save this awesome curriculum you've created within the Ellii website inside this lesson planning tool. I think I'm going to stop about here. I see that there's a lot been going on in the chat and Q&A, and maybe ask if there are any questions for me. So thank you for going through the lesson planner tool objectives with me. Are there any questions?
Hi, Wendy. We seem to be caught up. Well, great job, by the way. Thank you for the great presentation. We seem to be caught up on the Q&A side. We just answered the most recent one there, and there are none in there right now. I'm trying to just quickly look at chat to see if there are any extra questions in there. I just see one right now. I would also like a search function for me and for my students in the lesson planner. Like, when did we do the lesson on X? So actually, yes, Wendy, right now we don't, I'll just answer this.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, for Kristen. We don't have that right now. I think we hadn't really thought of it that way because we had always sort of imagined this lesson planner to be sort of for one semester, and maybe the most you would have in there is sort of 30 lessons, and you could just sort of scroll up and down. And I think, Kristen, maybe you're talking about from the student side or from the teacher side. Let me just reread that. Okay, for the student side, I think that's something that we do have on our roadmap, where a student could just search for a lesson, because it is a little bit more difficult to see it all in there. For the teacher side, we don't have that as of right now, or don't have it on the roadmap as of right now, but it's something that I'll pass on to our product team as an idea. What else here? Are there any more Marta or Ginny or Ashley / Anthony that have come in that I haven't seen there? We're actually way ahead of time here. I think we thought that we would have 10 or 15 minutes of extra questions at the end. I'm going to jump
I,
back to the question side and see if any came up
I
there.
do have, but I do have a few more things I would like to say uh, about the group trials. If there's anyone new
Oh,
here.
sorry, Wendy, can we answer one before you go to the
Oh
group
yeah,
trial? Because
yeah, sure.
it'll be more on point. I do remember one earlier on. There was somebody who was just curious about creating a class, because I don't think we showed how to create a class. And because
No.
we showed how to put stuff into a class and how to manipulate stuff inside of a class, let's just quickly show how to create a class too
I,
before we go to the demos and stuff.
okay, great. I would love to do that. So here, as I told you when I was giving the explanation of the lesson planner tool, I told you that I had created the class ahead of time while you guys were waiting to get in. So here is how you actually create a class. You click on the create a class. I mean, the UX is pretty easy here, isn't it? So you click on create a class, and we're going to name this class, webinar class. All right. So here we go. And there are three ways that we can give feedback here as a teacher in our class. So it's manual, old school. You grade everything. And in Ellii, if it's multiple choice or whatever, it's automatically graded. But there are two tasks that we have to grade. So it's um, the personal response and then open-ended questions. And that's so you would have to just do everything on your own. Then there's this suggested. So we have the Ellii bot, and that's our AI that we use. And the Ellii bot is really great because it will go through and it will grade the students open, the response that they've either typed or spoken. And then you have the ability to edit and modify what the Ellii bot has done. And remember, it's a bot. That's why we suggest this, because we don't, you know, we really still we need to keep the human touch. We need to keep the human in the loop, as we are moving forward and fast and furious with the AI. We have to remember that we are the humans in the loop, and the teacher is still essential for the learning process to take place and for learner success. And so that's why we have this suggested. Now, automatic, which we do not recommend at all, is that would be in an instance where maybe like students are, I don't know, like on a waiting list and they have no teacher, and then the bot would just grade it. But maybe you wouldn't even assign tasks that needed that. Um, but that's an automatic. So I always have mine on suggested. And then remember the section in the content drawer when it said recommended? This is where the AI bot again comes to our aid. It helps us. You just select like mine was advanced. You select your level, and these are the class attributes. Mine was adults. And remember, at Ellii, the lesson planner tool and the lessons, no matter what you're teaching, if you're tutoring, if you're teaching K through 12, if you're in a community-based program, if you are, at community college, wherever, it doesn't matter. We have materials for you, and the lesson planner works in every situation, and I've taught in just about every situation, so I know. And then we select the skill. So maybe I want to just focus mostly on speaking and vocabulary and listening. And then I would just save. And if we go back here in the breadcrumbs and we click on classes, you can see here, I now have my webinar class. You can also change the color of your dot as well. I don't think I showed that to you. And that is how you would create a class. Let's say you're done with your class. You can always archive it. And you can archive it, and then you can't delete it right away. But then if you go to archive, you're like, you know what? We don't really need this webinar class because I'm not going to have any students in it. Then you can delete the class. But from archived, you're able to restore it. But you can go ahead and delete the class if you'd like. And that's how you would create and delete a class. And then go back to the Discover page. Any more questions, or would you like me to share and if we have any new people, I'd love to tell you about a free group trial for your organization.
Let me give one quick look here. Wendy, some are coming in real time. I would love a low-level lesson series on academic note taking. Okay, I'll take note of that and pass that on to our writing team, our publishing team. I don't know if we have that or not. I did put some low-level, low literacy links above. There's the new first five section that we have recently launched, which is excellent for pre-beginner. And then I also linked to our foundations, English foundations collections in Ellii. But I think I put the same thing in there twice, the same link in there twice. I'm just noticing. Wendy, I think let me just go back one more quick question, check to the questions. I see some there. How do you post it to Google Classroom? Okay, do you mind if we do that too, Wendy? Can you go to and open up a class there? Now, unfortunately, I don't think Wendy has her account connected to Google Classroom right now. You'll have to share your screen again, Wendy, but I'll just show in principle how
I
it
think
works.
I am sharing my screen.
It's just you now for some reason. Anthony, do you know how we can get back to
It says I'm
sharing?
screen sharing.
Oh, can everybody else see
Yeah,
Wendy?
they can see it. Thank you. Thank you, community. Thank you. I knew we were together in this. Okay. Yes, they can see my screen.
Okay, I cannot see it for some reason. I can only
Okay,
see
so
you.
let's go into staycations and then post to Google Classroom. This is what, oh gosh. I'd have to go. I don't have it connected to my Google Classroom.
Yeah, but let me just show in principle how it works. So if you move a lesson into the teaching lane, and then you open the card, and maybe I'm doing this without being able to see because I can't see your screen for some reason, Wendy. If you go and click on the card opens up and there's that add to Google Classroom link. If you click that add to Google Classroom link, it will connect to your Google, your Gmail account that you have to actually log in with. And then it will go and it will show you a list of all of your classes. And then there's going to be an option to pin it to that class. And essentially just that link gets linked to an assignment inside of Google Classroom. Then you've got to go back over to Google Classroom and add notes if you want to and other things. But it's just linking it from within there. So I'm sorry, I'm doing it without being able to see much and we can't really log in. But if you have more questions on that, you can reach out to us at hello@eslteacher.com and we can help you with that.
There was a question about, can you link it to Canvas? We now have Canvas integration. So maybe Ben, you want to talk about that for a minute?
Yes. So if you are part of an organization, that means you've got an organizational account, not just an individual account. Then we do have an option for Canvas. You have to reach out to us, hello@eslteacher.com. And actually, Marta, I don't know if you're there still, if you can paste the link to where they can get set up. I think it's in one of our help docs. If you've got that, you can put it in the chat. But just reach out to us at hello@eslteacher.com and put in the subject Canvas and just say you would like to get Canvas integrated. It's a 2 or 3 step process for us to set it up for you. And then once it's set up, it will work so that anything that you put into the teaching lane will just automatically get pushed by you clicking a button into an assignment on Canvas. But it is available and you've got to reach out to us. And then I see something about Moodle. Sorry, Wendy, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I see something. Do the students access the assignments through the website? Is there an app? So that's a great question. And I'm really glad that you asked that. The students are accessing the lessons through the website. They log in as a student and it's not an app. So the things where the student is here, they would go to eslteacher.com/student and they would log in.
Yeah. And maybe you could we don't have to actually go through it, but just if you click to your class and click on students, Wendy, you can show that there are 4 options for adding students. You can add them manually. You can invite them with a QR code. You can invite them with an email, or you can add them from another class. So within students, there's 3 or 4 options to add. I noticed somebody else asked about Moodle too. Moodle is coming. So Canvas was our first LTI integration. Moodle, Brightspace, and Schoology are on our roadmap and are coming soon. We just have not had as many requests for those. So they are sort of coming in order of requests, but they are coming.
Right. And they just from a teaching perspective, the class code, your students will need an email. So they won't need to verify the email. Oh my gosh, thank goodness, right? that's a huge ball of wax. But they will need to use one, and then they will control their password. So just be aware of that. If you have students that have very low or the literacy or low proficiency, sometimes it's what I've done in the past is I create their accounts and I create their username and password, and I actually just give everybody the same password, just to, get them in to the platform. We can teach them about logging in at a different time, but just to get them in and spinning around, to boost that digital literacy. So just from a teacher point of view.
Somebody just said, Wayne said he loves your glasses, Wendy.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, and then just once, I also have another question. I'm a daily constant user, and it daily logs you out. Okay, it shouldn't be doing that. We had a fix for that, and I'm not sure why that's still happening for you. We did hear that that's happening for some people, and it might be a setting. Oh, it looks like another person, Kristen, is getting logged out as well. Let me just check with our development team and see if for some reason that got reverted, because at one point we had fixed that, or not fixed it, but implemented something that keeps you logged in. So I agree that that would be annoying, but it should not do that. So I'm seeing a few people are getting logged out. So let me get back. Let me just take that directly to our team. I can't really
Yeah.
answer anything about that, but okay. And then Wendy, you want to show something quickly about the demo or getting a
Oh,
trial
yeah.
account?
Yeah, I don't know how many of my friends here in our Ellii webinar community on the lesson planning tool do not have an Ellii account. But if you or your program is interested, you can scan this QR code for a free 2-month trial that comes with a demo with me. Or a wonderful woman named Michelle on our accounts team. So go ahead and scan this for your program if you do not have Ellii and you are interested. That's it. And then I just always whoops, what am I doing here? And of course, from all of us here at Ellii, we really thank you for being a part of this webinar and asking such thoughtful questions and giving us such formative feedback in real time. It's really nice to actually have these conversations live, with you during the webinar. And as always, we really do love to hear from you. And my super smart, coworkers are ready to answer all your questions and to hear your feedback and to implement change. And luckily, we're able to iterate quickly. So it's hello@ellii.com, and we really would love to hear from you.
Okay, thank you, Wendy. I think we're done with the questions, and now everybody's just saying goodbye and they're saying thank you. It looked like everybody was really appreciative of your presentation, as was I and our whole team. So on behalf of Ellii, thank you, Wendy, and thank you everybody for attending. Wendy, do you want to say the final word and we'll close out?
I think you did it. It
That's
was
it?
great. Thanks, Ben. Okay.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ellii,